Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Dyvonne, and today I'm going to share with y'all how I make my Salisbury steak, and I make it in the crock pot. And so I'm going to share with you the different steps. I'm going to also share with you the ingredients that I'm going to use and how it comes out great with this wonderful mushroom onion gravy. So first, what I like to do is I like to prepare my mushrooms, and I'm using an 8-ounce pack of the white mushrooms. Next, I go ahead and I get together my onion. The onion that I'm using is a sweet onion. It's a yellow onion. And so you can use as much onion or as little onion as you like, kind of depending on your taste. I like this is a pretty big size onion, and I'm just going to use about 1/3 of the onion, and I like to slice it in half, and then I go ahead and I slice those pieces in half, and so I'm going to end up kind of like with half size onion rings, I guess you could say. And also with the mushrooms, I'm using white mushrooms that I had sliced in half. Now if you don't care for mushrooms, you can definitely leave them out if you don't care for mushrooms, but it really helps to add a nice depth and richness of flavor to our gravy that we're going to be making. And I'm going to share with you how to make the gravy right inside of your crock pot. Next, I have some nice fresh parsley leaves that I got from my garden, and the parsley, I like to garnish it with parsley, and this is going to be about 1/4 of a cup of some nice fresh parsley. I'm using flat leaf parsley. If you don't have any fresh parsley, you can definitely use dried parsley, and you'll need about 1 tablespoon of dried parsley. So once I've got my onion and I've got my mushroom and my parsley all together, we're going to go ahead and start to season up our meat. And today I'm making the Salisbury steak for dinner for my family tonight, but I've also made hamburger steak as well, and I'll share with you the difference between Salisbury steak and the difference between hamburger steak. So for my seasoning, I have in here some Lawry seasoning salt. I also have in here some garlic salt. I have kosher salt. I have black pepper. Next, I'm going to put in some breadcrumbs. I'm using plain breadcrumbs, and this is going to be 1/2 cup of plain breadcrumbs. Now for my meat, my ground beef is an 85-15 lean ground beef. And you want to use a lean ground beef like that 85-15 so you don't have a lot of excess drippings that you'll have to scoop out of your crock pot. This way, having the lean ground beef is going to make all the difference. Next, I'm going to put in an egg. I have 1 large egg, and to the egg, I added in 2 tablespoons of water. And I go ahead and I beat the egg and the 2 tablespoons of water together, and I add that as well to the ground beef, and that was 2 pounds. The seasoning was 1 tablespoon of seasoning salt, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. I use a similar seasoning blend when I make my hamburger steak with gravy. The difference between hamburger steak and Salisbury steak is that Salisbury steak, you're going to be putting in an egg as a binder, and you're also going to be using some breadcrumbs, some plain breadcrumbs as well. Those 2 things mixed in starts to what differentiates between a hamburger steak recipe and a Salisbury steak recipe. So really similar also to doing a meatloaf. I have a wonderful meatloaf recipe, and I'll put a link in the description box below for my meatloaf. And the little things that I have learned over the years from cooking for my family on how to make a tender meatloaf that comes out nice and moist and full of flavor. One of my husband's favorite things of all time is meatloaf and mashed potatoes. And so I have a recipe that I have used for many years, and I have it just right. And so I will have that information in the description box below and a link to that video. So once I've mixed everything together in my bowl, what I do is I shape my patties. Now depending on how thick you want to shape your patties, and also how big you want to shape your patties like this, I like to do mine oval shape, because the Salisbury steak that I grew up eating and enjoying was always oval shape. And so I'm using just about the size of, say, about a baseball. If you think of a baseball, about the size of a baseball of the ground beef, and then I just kind of flatten it and just shape it in my hand back and forth. Make sure that you do your best to seal the seams so that way your patties don't split on you. So just do your best to kind of shape it around and seal the seams. Now, with 2 pounds of the ground beef, you're going to end up making, depending on how big you're going to make them, anywhere from 8 patties to 10 patties. Okay, and so I'm making this for 5 people for dinner, so there will be 2 patties per person. You can, and my patties are about a half an inch thick, not too much more than that. An inch at the most really is what you would do, because the thicker they are, the longer it's going to take to cook. And so about a half an inch, right around there, is what you want to shape your patties. So once I've gone on and I've washed up my hands, I've got all my patties shaped. In my cast iron skillet, I put in 2 tablespoons of butter, and you can use either salted or unsalted butter. What I'm doing is I'm searing the patties so we have a nice sear on each side of the patties before I put them into my slow cooker. I like to do this. I like to kind of brown up everything before I put it in my slow cooker. Now you can go ahead and put it directly into your slow cooker. You don't have to brown them, but I really like to sear the patties, get a nice sear on the outside, and I'm only doing this for about 1 or 2 minutes per side. My flame is on a medium high heat as I'm doing this, and something that I have found is that when I do sear the patties and they're finished cooking in my crock pot, they're less likely to break apart on me through that cooking process in the slow cooker. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome in, and if you're a returner, welcome back. And I want to thank all my wonderful subscribers for your likes, your shares, your subscribes, your good vibe comments. I truly appreciate it. And if you are new here and if you're enjoying the content, I hope you consider subscribing. Once I'm done browning up all of our patties, then I'm going to go ahead and I'll meet you over at my countertop, and we're going to put our Salisbury steak all together. So first what I do is I put in a layer of the mushroom and the onion. You just want to put in half your onion and half your mushroom. Then on top of that, I'm going to put in half of my patties. Now this recipe can be doubled if you're going to be making a lot, or it can also be cut in half if you're just going to be cooking just for about 2 or 3 people. So once I have half the patties in, then I go ahead and I layer the rest of the mushroom and the onion, and then I go ahead and I put my patties on top of that. So you'll end up with 2 layers of veggies and 2 layers of meat. Then I pour in 3 cups of beef broth, and I use the bouillon, the powder bouillon to make my broth. You can also use canned beef broth as well. You want to use 3 cups. Now once I've done that, and this is what you want it to look like, and don't worry if your patties aren't totally covered by liquid. As your patties and veggies cook, they'll release more liquid into your slow cooker. I cook my Salisbury steak on high, and you want to cook it on high for about 4 to 5 hours, or you can cook it on low for about 7 to 8. It's been 4.5 hours, and then I press on them to feel for their firmness. You want them to be nice and firm in the middle. They're looking good. They've held together well. Our veggies have started to cook down really nicely. I'm going to go ahead and take the patties out of the pot. Now I'm making my family's dinner tonight with mashed potatoes. However, if you'd like to do it as just everything in the crock pot, what you could do is you could do some potatoes. Yukon Gold potatoes in particular is what I like to use. You can go ahead and use some Yukon Gold potatoes that you cut in half, kind of depending on their size, how big or small they are. And I usually do about 1.5 pounds of the Yukon Gold potatoes. They stew better in the crock pot versus doing like russet or Idaho potatoes. They don't break down as quickly. But what I do is I put the Yukon Gold potatoes in there that I've cut in half, about 1.5 pounds. And then when I do that, in particular, I don't make the gravy to go with it. So we just basically have the patties, the Salisbury steak patties with the potatoes that have cooked all together. So that's also another wonderful way that you can also utilize this recipe. Now that I have all of my patties out I'm going to go ahead, put the top back on, and I'm going to share with you and show you how to make a quick roux. And this is what we're going to use to thicken up all that wonderful liquid that we have, all that wonderful broth and juice. So what I have here is I have 5 tablespoons of softened butter. I'm using unsalted butter, and I have 5 tablespoons of regular all-purpose flour. Blend those two together to make a nice paste. You want to make a nice paste. You want to have no streaks of flour at all. So make sure that the flour and the butter are blended well, and this is what it's going to look like. And then I just go ahead and gradually add in our flour and butter mixture to our hot liquid. When you first put your roux in that we made, when you first put in it to the hot liquid, it'll separate on you a little bit. It'll just start to separate. You just continue to blend and move everything around just like that. And then I also press against the side any pieces, just like I'm doing there. I just kind of press against the side any chunky pieces that I have, and just continue to do that just like that. And we're going to be using all of the flour and butter mixture that we have in our measuring cup that we made up. We're going to use it all and just continue to move it around just like that. And a second way you can also do is take some of the hot liquid and add it to your bowl or your measuring cup like I'm using of the butter and the flour, and then it makes it just a little bit thinner, and so it's easier to kind of just like scoop out and incorporate it. So you can either just put the paste straight in, the roux paste that we made, or either you can put the hot liquid into the bowl that you're using and do it that way as well. Then I switch over to my bigger spoon and I keep on stirring and blending. And you want to do this until everything has dissolved and been incorporated with the liquid. And this is what it's looking like. And what's going to happen as it continues to cook is also going to cook off your flour, that flour taste, and it's also going to thicken up. And so once I have everything and it's nice and smooth, I'm going to go ahead and add our patties into with our gravy. And as you see, it doesn't take long for it to start to thicken up as well. And so I'm going to add the patties back in. I still have my crock pot on high. And you also want to make sure that none of the mushrooms or the onions have stuck to the bottom. So make sure you go around the sides to make sure that nothing is stuck around the sides or the bottom. I put any liquid that's also in the bowl. I'm going to top everything, and then it's going to let it cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. And this is what it's looking like. So our Salisbury steak finished up cooking. It has all that wonderful gravy that we have created. The Salisbury steaks stay tender like this, as well as they also stay nice and moist. So in my crock pot on high, we're just about at that 5-hour mark. And again, if you're going to do it on low, you want to do it on low for about 7 to 8 hours. Now I'm going to top it with some nice fresh parsley. And I'm also going to keep some parsley to the side to garnish up the plates. Well, I'm going to go ahead and serve us up some. I have some mashed potatoes. I use Yukon Gold. Those are my favorite potatoes to use. So I have some Yukon Gold potatoes that I've mashed up. And for my mashed potatoes, I just use half and half butter and kosher salt when I mash my potatoes. I've got also some wonderful sweet corn that we also have with it. I'm going to put some gravy and some of the mushroom gravy and the onions right on top. I'm going to get my fork and I'm going to serve y'all up the first bite. Well, this is our plate for dinner tonight. Well, are you ready? This first bite's for you. Go ahead and take your bite. Now I'm going to take my bite and see how we did. Wow. Oh my goodness. This meal is just so comforting. I've got some corn and some mashed potatoes for you there as well. Oh, this comes out so good. I hope y'all give this recipe a try. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. It's free. If you liked this video and appreciate the content, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up and click share and share this video with a friend or a family. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.